President Barack Obama's 2010 federal tax return can be found on the White House website and can be downloaded as a PDF. According to the return on page 1, we can see that the president and his wife reported an adjusted gross income of just over $1.7 million for 2010, which puts the couple in the top 1% of income earners in America. The bulk of the income came from the sale of the president's books, which we can see here flowing through from Schedule C. Let's go to Schedule C. And here we can see that there's additional detail available on Statement 8. Let's go to Statement 8. And here we can see that the two payers are the two publishing houses, Distal and Random House. Back to page 1 of the return, we can see that the president reported wage income of almost $400,000, which he received serving as Commander-in-Chief. And if we go to the statement, we can see that the statement's on page 36. We can see that the payer is DFAS, which stands for Defense Finance and Accounting Services, which is the organization responsible for paying salaries related to the Department of Defense. Back to page 1, we can see that the Obamas reported interest income of $8,000 and dividend income of almost $10,000, which combined a little bit over $18,000. If we divide this by a payout ratio of, let's say, 3%, we can assume that the Obama's personal investment portfolio is somewhere between $500,000 and $600,000. Continuing down, we can see on page 2 that the Obamas paid a total tax of $453,000, which, if you divide this by their adjusted gross income of 1.7, yields an effective tax rate of 27%. Let's go to Schedule A. On Schedule A, there are a couple other interesting facts, including almost $50,000 paid for mortgage interest. And here, if we assume that the interest rate on the underlying mortgage is 4%, we can assume that the mortgage debt that the Obamas have is probably valued at around $1.2 million. Further down on Schedule A is something very surprising, which is the amount of money given to charity. The Obamas gave $245,000, which, if you divide this by their adjusted gross income of 1.7, yields a very high contribution rate of 15%. And on Statement 7, we can see the actual detail of the various charities that received money. There are 36 of them here, the biggest recipient being Fisher House, which is a charity that provides for military families. On Schedule B, there's something else interesting on the return, which is a payment of almost $10,000 from a K-1 from a philanthropist that lived long ago named Henry Freeman. And you can read about this on the web, but basically this payment is to the First Lady. So that's the President's return. It can be found on the White House website along with the President's gift tax returns for 2010, his Illinois state return for 2010, and you can also see the Vice President's tax filings also.